Yo, 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 yo.
Another week, another week. How you doing, John?
Doing good, man. How you doing? Actually, I'm not doing so great, but how are you?
No, it doesn't sound like it. It doesn't sound like it.
I'm over here
God,
sucking on a cough drop and trying to keep my nose from running all over the microphone.
dude, just keep popping them. Oh man, you hear that? Oh no, give me a second. No, that's me,
Alert,
man.
alert,
My kid's
alert.
making pancakes. Give me a second. Let me pause
Nice.
this here real quick.
All right, cool.
Man, yeah, okay. So you hear it, right? Again, my kid's
Perfect.
making pancakes,
It's
so
totally cool. Don't even worry
yeah,
about
and,
it.
and we're gonna get all into the whole father son thing because I gave him the okay. Go
Father,
ahead and
son,
make some
father,
pancakes
daughter.
for us this morning. It's all good, and yeah, it is what it is, man. The show must go on. That's the pleasures of having a live show, I suppose. Right?
That is. That's the perfect kind of intro for the show today.
Heck yeah, man! Chaos ensues, man. Havoc. Yeah. So no, man. So I wanted to touch on this really quick, and
Mhm.
this thing. I saw it floating around online, and I'm not gonna bag on any other services here really quick, but I just want to call out, hey, the Marines are still the only ones to pass the independent financial audit this year. Just
Actually,
want to throw that out there. It's not like we won any battles with this or anything like that, but it does kind of stand out a little bit. Um, Talks to how tight we keep our processes and stuff, and on top of that, it's like the leadership is always kind of hounding on us. Hey, make sure you keep track of all this trash. Okay, got it. We got spreadsheets for spreadsheets, right? So we'll make it happen. So that I was reading about that. I was like, okay, I guess that's cool, right? Awesome, man. What's going on with your side, man? How's everything out there?
everything's good, man. I've been doing a lot of reading and research. I was gonna pull
Mhm.
something up, but I think I'll just leave it off the screen. It's all good. I think
Yeah,
the Doge, the Department of Governmental Efficiencies, has
that's right.
supplanted a individual into the VA organization to officially work at the VA, to go through all the databases, go through all the information at the
I
VA,
heard
do
about that. Yeah,
audit and internal audit.
yeah.
That's what's cooking on the burner this week. Um, it's gonna get more interesting as it goes along. We were talking just off camera how
Mhm.
the back to work thing for the government, for the federal government, is
Yes.
full effect right now.
100%, it's a go, dude. It's so again, yeah, I work for the federal government, and it has been we're just getting ready for the return to office thing, right? So when it was supposed to happen in March, now it's happening on Monday, and getting calls, hey, is everything ready for Monday? For as much as we can have it ready for Monday, it is ready for Monday, right? So we set out signs, we set out things because people got to understand telework has been a thing for so long since COVID era, right? Since what? That was like what, 2020? It has been a thing, and people have been either teleworking, remote working, etc. And now everybody's coming into office. It's going to be a full office. I'm sitting there. I got moved from my office somewhere else, so just when I thought I had like this nice space, it's like, hey, but psych, you don't. Jokes on you. But whatever, we adapt, we overcome, and we adjust, and all that good stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So it is what it is. But
yeah.
as ready as we can be.
Billy John out there says Doge will gut the VA benefits, and he's asking, do you think this is a good or bad thing? I mean, personally, I think it's good that we have somebody in place to do some auditing. I don't necessarily 100% agree with the way it's going, how it's going, what it's named, like the organization and what it's named, those kind of things. Like, it scares me a little bit, but at the same time, there's a lot to be audited. I mean, where I work, I'm sure where you work as well, you guys get audited on a regular basis
Mhm.
for various things, whether it's taking care
Yep.
of the the funding for travel, or the funding for supplies, or you're taking care of personnel space funding. You guys probably going to run into this sooner or later, where everybody's coming back to the office, but that's after the offices have downsized and people have kind
Yeah.
of shifted around and moved things. Now everybody's coming back, so you got to kind of expand back out, make more space for people to be in there. Plus, you add to the overhead of heating bills and electric bills and gas bills and all that stuff. It goes along with running an actual building where people work. Um, I think it's going to be good as long as they stay away from auditing like veteran benefits, right? If they start auditing veterans, I think I would disagree with that. And as I let everybody know all the time, I check out Clay and I watch everything that he does, and I kind of keep up with stuff through him. In a lot of cases, I read it through the emails and all that stuff. But I definitely don't agree with if they start tinkering with VA benefits for veterans who already have benefits, like tinker with the processes, go in there and audit the people who are doing these processes, improve the processes, make it faster for us to get VA benefits approved, get rid of these excessive CMP exams, those kind of things. And really, I'm just echoing what Clay says a lot. But my personal opinion is I would love to have an audit. I would love for the government to get audited to the point where we get some efficiencies in there and get rid of a lot of this excessive spending, cut the deficit down. But at the same time, there's certain lines that you can't cross, right?
Yeah, I don't think VA benefits are going to be touched, man. To be honest, there's too many veterans out there who have sacrificed too much for that. So I don't know that it's going to get touched.
Yeah,
To be honest,
I hope not.
yeah. So I mean, I look at this whole audit as when I was back in uniform, I would be part of the inspection team. So when
Mhm.
I'd go around, travel around to like different commands, and I would check out records and files and things like that, make sure that the oncoming CO or the oncoming whoever department head is in uniform is picking up a good product, right? So afterwards, after the entire audit, the inspection, we go and brief the commander or the CO, whoever it is, on what we found. Yes, there are delinquent files, there are delinquent this, you're good on this, just kind of off the bat to see what they're inheriting or what they're leaving to the next person. So it could be a good thing. It could be a good thing, like hey, we're actually looking at everything from the ground up, making sure that we're as efficient as possible, and that way we can provide the best possible service to our country, to our people.
Yeah, that's right.
It could
And
be could be a good thing.
the best use of our government funds, meaning taxpayer dollars, right?
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
honestly think auditing is a good thing. Keeping people accountable is a good thing. Going into things beyond that and doing auditing for auditing's sake is
Hmm.
not necessarily a good thing. But
Yeah,
we'll leave it at that. For all of you out there who are getting ready to watch the Super Bowl, I'm not personally. I don't know if you are, Vic, or not, but just
I
some
am.
fun
I am.
facts
Yeah.
about the Super Bowl. Like the Eagles were actually in the first Super Bowl with, I believe it was Wisconsin back in 1967. So they played the first Super Bowl. It's
Hmm.
going to be the Eagles or sorry, the Chiefs. The Chiefs were in the first Super Bowl, 1967. Chiefs and Eagles today. Um, Throw it in the comments. Who you think's going to win? What are your predictions? And also, let us know where you're hailing from if you haven't already, or if you have, throw it in there again. We'd like to shout you out and shout out your area and where you're from and all that kind of things.
Yeah, yeah, and real quick before we get on to and I can go down a whole rabbit hole with this whole football thing, man. I really can. I got neighbors on both sides. One's an Eagles, one's a Chiefs fan, and I'm in the middle, because I grew up watching the Giants, but I got no skin in the game here and haven't had any for many years, so I'm not even going to talk about it. Anyway, it can go either way, man. Frankly, the Chiefs have been winning way too much, and I think maybe the Eagles need a chance at this. But uh, again, I got no dog in the fight here. I did want to bring this up here. It's really good for veterans, even service members, active duty service members, to get your certifications. I use this. It's on Coursera, Coursera.org. So you can essentially get free certifications from like Google analytics. They actually give you a certificate. You can put it in your resume, right? It makes you more marketable. It makes you stand out amongst folks on LinkedIn, things like that. Google UX design, Google IT support. Now, the way you get this paid off or paid for is you connect with an organization that will pay for it. The USO does it. I connected with VTS. VTS, if you see me clicking up here, uh, Veterans Transition Services. So they actually have their own kind of set of courses that they'll allow or they'll pay for. And Veterans Transition Support, here you go. They're out of here. They're out of Southern California. You connect with these organizations that will pay for Coursera, and you don't have to pay a dime for it. You take the courses; they pay for the their certificate. It's usually like about $100, and it makes you more marketable. Easy. I think I finished what is it? Google. I forgot what it was. Project management. But there's a whole bunch of them, and not just Google. There's a whole set of different courses on here on business, on algorithms, on just a ton of stuff. So yeah, shout out to VTS and shout out to Coursera for making it happen for veterans and active duty.
Yeah, Coursera is a great tool. It's one of those tools you can actually load on your phone, and you can do a lot of that stuff on your phone in your free time, or if you're sitting around waiting for something to happen, sitting at the doctor's office, you can actually hop on there and go through some of the course material. It's what makes it kind of great. Plus, the catalog is like extensive. Like they have all kinds of stuff in there for Coursera.
Yeah,
You
it
can
is.
do everything from like project management stuff to like underwater basket weaving. Like you can do everything in Coursera pretty much.
I'm gonna look that up, John. I'm gonna look it up.
Underwater basket weaving on Coursera. Yeah.
So with that, I know we all heard the emergency sounds from this morning. Again, I gave my kid the okay to make some pancakes this morning. He's like, "Dad, can I use a stove?" And he's 10, so I'm like, "Whatever, man, go ahead, use it." Make us some breakfast this morning, right?
Yeah.
And sure enough, he puts it on high. Probably has like the oil sizzling in there or whatever. So it's all good. We get it done, right? Open the doors, air it out a little bit. So with that, that's all part of life, part of being a father, part of being a dad, letting kids learn things on their own and then kind of guiding them after that. So with that, I'd love to bring on our next guest is T. Shane Johnson. He is the owner of Big Guns, the co-owner, of Big Guns Coffee over in North Carolina. Welcome to the Military Retirement Podcast, T. Shane. How are you?
Hey, good, gentlemen. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thanks for coming on, man.
I'm glad you corrected that because my daughter would have heard this podcast and found out that I was going around saying I was the founder. She probably
I corrected her real quick, man. I've watched a lot of your stuff, and I know that you are the co-owner. I'm going to put it out there right now. So my apologies, and I corrected it on the spot. So yeah, I definitely know that. But that's awesome, man. How did that come about? Like where? So you were in the Marine Corps, right? You started out there, and then. But so how I understand the Marines are always like, I mean, I always carried a cup of coffee around anywhere I went, right? And I think that's like assigned to you when you become like a chief warrant officer, right? But how did that mesh, or how did that transition go for you? Like from going from the military to becoming the co-owner of a coffee shop, a coffee company?
Yeah, that was so. What's kind of funny is I wasn't a really big coffee drinker. I think if I was anything, I'd kill about 5 rippets a day. But it after kind of a series of events throughout my life after getting out of the Marine Corps, I had written a book kind of talking about how to be a better CEO of our home life versus our business and the return on investment on that. And I just kind of finished up kind of the rough draft of it. And my daughter has been a part of just about everything I've done, from my runs across America, my world record of, and the fundraising, all the parts of business and motivational speaking and stuff I've been a part. She's always been, a large part of that. And one day I came downstairs and, again, we have a pretty open dialogue. And she says, "You know what, Dad, I want to start a business." And, I think, when I have this conversation, I talk to a lot of people, kids a lot of times will come and say, "I want to go play football, or I want to go ride horses, or, I want to go do ballet. I want to go do dance." And it's funny because we're such big advocates of those platforms. Like, yeah, okay, great. We'll go play soccer, or, oh, we'll go play softball. We'll go do something. And, when your kid says, "I want to start a business," that's something a little out of the ordinary because, of course, in our brain, our thought process is, well, we don't want them working too fast right off the bat. We want them to enjoy being a kid. Life has become relatively cynical in our thought process.
Yeah.
And part of that book was saying, well, if a young woman wants to build a business as a father and I can get behind and support her, then I should be an advocate on that just as much as I would be if she wanted to do dance or ballet. And it was just again, I always say it's kind of a selfish, selfless moment where, selfishly, it was something we could do together that, I obviously am not that great at ballet. So I figured, what, if we can run a business, we'll go for it. And then at the same time, it's selfless because, I want to see this young person grow up and have the empowerment to do all the things that we had to learn the hard way and set the foundation to be able to change lives for people later on, be inspired. And as I always say, I got asked this question kind of yesterday about that. Well, does she get the chance to be a kid? Does she get the chance to enjoy with all the stuff she's doing? And I think we kind of haven't retrained our brains in the thought process that, we spend the rest of our lives after we are a kid trying to get back to being a kid, right? We're trying to retire to enjoy our lives and live our lives and be free and not think of all the things that, weigh us down. And I think as I tell her, I'm like, look, if we can bridge that gap as quickly as possible to get to the end to where you can start making life choices based on what you want versus what you have to, it starts to make things look a little differently. Because I feel we all would have maybe made a little difference in our career paths or our life decisions had it not been monetary driven, or necessity driven in the sense of paying, rent and mortgages and bills and all of the things that come with being an adult. So, money isn't everything, but it's right up there with oxygen. And when you can kind of create some interpersonal skills, some speaking, some opportunities to learn business and the dynamic behind it, and instill that into someone who has visions and dreams, who's not skewed by, the man behind the curtains, and really takes it and runs with it. And as a father, you get behind her. I think it lays a really good foundation. I mean, it's really just the infrastructure of the Marine Corps. I mean, the idea is
Yep.
you take a young person that doesn't have any guidance, you give them to be part of something, and then you give them these massive skills and responsibility and trust them to go and defend the world. So that was kind of the basis behind it. And coffee just happened to be the product she wanted to do. Here we are.
That's cool. That's cool. So I just watched a video, and it was this Marine recruiter who went to a community college, and he mentioned that he was just surprised at the amount of folks who cannot look somebody in the eye and talk to them effectively in 2025. Right. I mean, this was he just posted this video. I can't remember the guy's name, but he just posted this video like last week, it looks like. And I can see that, right? Because I've talked to folks, I've been to like the high schools and stuff like that. I've talked to kids, and a lot of them are shy, and that's great what you're doing too. You're getting, you're forming your kid, you're preparing your kid for the future, right? There is a time where she's going to have to, shake somebody's hand and look them in the eye and talk to them effectively as a business person. So you're doing awesome, man. You're preparing your child for that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's actually kind of
Yeah.
funny you bring that up. So we recently just partnered with Walmart to go in a few hundred stores, kind of our start in Sprouts
Yeah. Wow.
nationally. And so when we go into all of our presentations, we actually leave to Chicago next week, and we go and talk to big box retail and executives. I'm not the one that pitches. Charlie's the one that does the pitch. So she comes in, she shakes everyone's hand. Good morning, sir. Nice to meet you. I'm the CEO of Big Guns Coffee. She sits down. I kind of sit to the side, and then she goes right into it. And it was funny because that was one of the things Walmart said. I've never been pitched by a 10-year-old who's shaking my hand so hard, or a 10-year-old at all for that matter, and kept eye contact the whole time. He was like, I don't care. We're just going to bring you guys on board one way or another. So it's a
That's
large
cool.
part of it. You're right.
Yeah, that's definitely needed today, man. It really is.
And how do you go about like structuring that whole thing between you and your daughter and like when you first started, when she approached you and she was like, "Hey, I want to start a coffee company." Um, Beyond the initial thoughts, like what was your initial plan, your schematic of how to put that all together, and then how did that kind of fall in place the way you expected it to, or were there a lot of twists and turns along the way?
Yeah. Well, I think that there's another wonderful benefit of being a Marine, right? We may have an mission objective, but it never goes as planned. So
Right.
I think the idea was we didn't have a systematic approach to it. What I had is I had a love for a young woman who's a part of my life, who's the best part of me, right? And her mother. And I just knew we would figure it out one way or another. And we just, like in anything, the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. And we just took it in the sense of let's just start learning the infrastructure of the business as far as, coffee and retail. And we started with a little coffee trailer. And that was kind of our first initiative. The big part of it was teaching her interpersonal skills and public speaking and how to be able to engage with people and ask the right questions. And again, coffee was just the conduit. It was really more about the infrastructure of how do we lay some confidence in her and get her out and meet and talking to people and practice that as much as possible. So when we started that, it was really just get the coffee trailer and have her learn all the nuances and intricacies of the business, all the way from payroll and managing the money, counting the money. She always managed to register, took any of the cash, counted the cash, and when we went through that, at the end of the day, we took an inventory. I mean, she did it all. I mean, it wasn't something where she's a novelty item where I just kind of was like, oh, she's cute. We'll put her up here and I'll do all the work. I mean, I laid that infrastructure. Okay, today we're going to count this. And some days were really long. And, mornings started at 4 o'clock in the morning and she had to get up and be a part of it. And, it's, if you want it to be your business, it'd be just like if it was a sport, you got to go to practice, you got to play the part. So we kind of started in that direction. And I think out of all the businesses I've been a part of or developed or coached or helped with, it is a little cliche, but once it's something you love and it's something you enjoy and you're on the right path, it just kind of works, man. I used to not believe that. And again, I think that's another factor that goes back to being a Marine. You feel like you have to constantly push no matter how challenging it is. You don't want to quit. And that plays a lot of factors in a lot of things. But I truly found that when you have a love and passion for something and you enjoy it, the pieces just kind of fall apart. So, of course, she's homeschooled, which plays a big part of that. I didn't want her to go into the regular school system. So her being a part of homeschool allows, some autonomy for us to be able to develop and run the business and grow things.
That's very cool. Very cool.
And were you able to, and just for the sake of the audience, were you able to leverage any of the VA benefits when it comes to like SBA and those kind of any of the grant money or anything like that because of being the co-founder, or was it purely just you had to go like completely commercial outside world with it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So let me see, make sure I answer this the right way. So, yeah, I mean, the simple answer is no, because it's all a scam. I mean, I say that not in a bad way of like a scam the way you think of it. I think though there are all these programs, there's so many different programs, and the real bridge between your business is just pure money, right? So there's all these programs to help you get to this point, but if you'll notice, there's not a lot of programs on selling or pitching. It's everything on, well, let's develop the infrastructure of a business. Let's put together a business plan. Let's do all this. And I don't care who you are. I mean, at the end of the day, we look at operations, right, support, and we look at, boots on the ground, right, infantry. And though we have this kind of like battle between each other, we do play a part. But at the end of the day, if we're not downrange support, there's really no need for it, right? We've got to be downrange. We've got to be attacking. We've got to be advanced. We've got to be moving forward. And business works that same way. I mean, if you're not selling, there's nothing to lay an infrastructure for. So when you start to go through these programs, though there are a lot of resources, and if you don't have the background and mentorship, I think probably a better way to answer this is if you're just coming right out and you're going right into business and you need some type of guidance, then it's great to kind of start gaining that knowledge. But I think the biggest piece to it is, where's the sales aspect? Where's the marketing side of it? How do you get out there and just get business? Because ultimately, you never want to have to borrow money if you don't have to. You want to be able to fund your business because like anything else, you don't want to owe Big Brother. And I think a lot of us, when we come out of the military, have somewhat of a skewed vision of that. So to go back and ask Big Brother for another favor can be a little challenging. So I think if you can go out and you can really sell it and build it without having to take on it. And the ironic thing is banks don't want to lend until you have the money you don't need. So you can go out and and apply for SBA, but they're going to want 2 years. They're going to want 25% in equity or collateral. They're going to want all these factors. You're like, well, I'm a new business. I don't have any of these. So, and of course, it works the same when you go to venture capitalists and you go on the commercial side. I mean, at the end of the day, they want to see that the money that they're giving, that there's truly no risk. It's not like it used to be where somebody'd come in and they'd say, okay, I'm going to give you 150,000. We believe in your concept and idea, go to work. Now it's, oh, do you have the concept? Do you have the idea? Do you have it already built? Do you have the money already? Okay, great. We'll leverage that money. So I think it's needs to be rebranded on the aspect. Look, I am sure there is a white elephant out there somewhere where someone has went and followed the process and got it. But I have learned in my life and my career that if you want something, you're just going to have to go take it and get it.
Yeah. Yeah, I bring it up because I'm sure there's a ton of people, especially in the audience, who are thinking about starting their own business, thinking about being an entrepreneur, thinking about going into business for themselves, whether it's a family-owned business or some kind of venture that they want to do, or a franchisee or anything like that. And I wanted to bring that up because I feel like it's a very important point. It's the same thing with the transition process of coming out of the military. Like, they give you a bunch of statistical data and information that's good and looks good on paper, but the applicability of it, the actual use case of it, the boots on the ground, like you mentioned, is kind of, there's a gap between the two, right?
Yeah, you're right. There's a massive gap. And, I always say when it comes to problem solving, we can't take the direction of a major ship and try to turn it ourselves. So we have to work independently within our unit and our structure to adapt to that. And at the end of the day, if I had advice on any of that, I mean, I think crowdfunding is a big thing now. If you can build a dynamic story and tell a story and pull something up, crowdfunding is definitely effective. Look into your inner circle of people, find those resources. That is true. If you can find some great people, some great resources, again, develop and build a story. People are willing to help. There's a lot of amazing people outside that system. I think that system kind of comes in play again when you've got some infrastructure, you've been a few years in business, and then you're just trying to leverage additional funds to not liquidate out your cash flow. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if you're going to build a business, the best advice I give to people is sell it and figure out the rest later. Just sell. Just get out there and sell as much possible. Have a problem with operations. That's a good problem to have a problem with being able to supply the product, have a problem with being able to have the infrastructure in place, have so much business and so much sales that I would rather deal with a customer complaint that I've got too many customer complaints and people saying I'm not getting enough of the product than no one complaining about anything and I've got a bunch of money in the bank. So, or a great infrastructure. So I think the key thing is just if you are building a business, there's a lot of great people that have done it. Get some mentorship, but just get out there and sell a fire out of it.
So T-Shane, I wanted to ask you, just taking it back to your days in uniform. What did you do while you were in the Marine Corps?
I was with 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines as a
Okay.
rifleman for about a year and a half, and then I went to the 1st Recon Battalion at Camp Pendleton, Camp Margarita.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, all right. And then, do you feel like any of the lessons maybe you've learned while in uniform, and I know they have because you've been spending some out here and spending some lessons here, but what do you think are the biggest lessons that you have learned in the military that you can bring to both co-owning the shop with the organization with your daughter and running an entire coffee business?
My daughter and I talk a lot about this, and if I had to speak on the one key thing that the Marine Corps taught me, set aside the offline conversations about what we believe and what we don't believe as far as the infrastructure of the military. Yep. I think the dynamic of being able, as a Marine, because I can never speak for other branches, is just the absolutely just tenacity to never quit and keep moving forward. I mean, just the true tuple hunting, right? Like the true concept of just absolute insane chaos double dog to just never ever quit. And I think that's I was having this conversation with someone the other day. Some people we joke about different branches, and it's like, oh, well, you know what, an Army guy, I've seen him beat up Marines and and fights and stuff, and we kind of joke. Yeah. And I said, you know what the difference between the Marine Corps and let's say other branches in that sense is from my experience. It's not a matter of whether it's a head-to-head combat of whether we can win, right? And kind of have that, little bragging rights. It's that we will just never quit. So you may beat us 1, but we're going to come back. And you beat us 2, we're going to come back. We're willing to die for our cause, no matter what. We're willing to go to the extreme every single time with everything. And that gives you a massive competitive advantage when you're building and running a business because you're okay with dying. I mean, I'm okay with it. I have, so I'm not scared of it. So how far are you willing to go? Because I know how far I'm willing to go. And when you have that kind of mindset against anything, it gives you a massive competitive advantage over the civilian world and people in the business. Because you'll stop at year 2, year 3, year 5, year 8, all the frustrations. You'll second guess it. You'll start to think, oh, well, I don't really want it. Whereas I feel the Marine Corps kind of taught me that we will go until the war is won, no matter how many battles it takes. So I think that was probably my biggest lesson is that just continue to keep advancing and moving forward and just dominate in everything you do.
No, that's excellent, man. Yeah. And I resonate with that because I hear it all the time. I mean, I've served myself and I hear it, back when I had deployed, they had those SWA huts, and then, you do the McMap and stuff with the Army folks who are doing combatives, and they do this thing where they turn off the lights. Hey, come on, everybody grapple. It's just fun and games, right? Stupid fun and games. But, it's all about bragging rights. It really is. But it's like, hey, who's the one who's willing to keep going? That's the one who's going to win. And so I wanted to ask you, as far as leadership lessons, and I know I'm asking you because I learn these every day from my own kids. Has your daughter taught you any leadership lessons that maybe you hadn't had before?
Man, that's a great question. So I find that, so I used to think that as becoming a parent, you're this pretentious person to protect this young person, right? In the
Mhm.
sense that you know everything, right? Like you're like, I've been through this experience, I know this, it's kind of like your young Marines, you're telling them, I've known, and you're following that structure. And I used to question that a lot because people would say, how old's your daughter? And at the time I'd say, 5 or 6. And they say, man, that's the best years, right? They're so great. They love you. It's so exciting, and they're not
Mhm.
teenagers and they're doing this thing. And
Yeah.
and one day I think it just kind of hit me when I was sitting there and I kind of was thinking about, my experience with God when I died and kind of the things I went through. And I was wondering, like, as we kind of get older, why do we become so cynical? Why do our dreams diminish? Why do we start to kind of look at the life that's really not a reality, that it is a reality? And we
Mhm.
kind of start putting these walls on our thought process. And then I looked at my daughter one day and I realized that God, and again, when I mentioned higher power to whatever term you like to put it in, but when I think of the term God and I think of the blessing that He gave me at a second chance at life, I realized that what He did is He put this small leader in front of me to remind me that dreams still can be true. And that with the right aspirations and vision and support, you can accomplish anything. So I think when my daughter, for me, I learned that I am still a worthy and of purpose and that I can be anything I want to be. And I say by far, she has probably taught me way more than I could ever teach her in anything that we're doing. And when you finally recognize that, when you realize those little humans are in your life or God put them in your life in order for you to recognize the beauty of what is here in the presence, it starts to change the dynamic of your thoughts and it really creates some amazing things. I think again, it goes back to like even in the Marine Corps, as you start to get a little salty and the young Marines come in, you start to see a little bit of you, right? There's a
Mhm.
difference between the day when you arrive in the fleet and then the day when you're in boot camp and you get your EGA. We get to the fleet, things start to change. But that 3 months that you're in boot camp, you feel like you're part of something that is, 200 plus years of just absolute perfection. And
Right.
you're so immersed into what it is and what it's about and the tradition and the structure and the implementation and the camaraderie that it is life changing, right? That's why when you get that EGA, you're sitting there and you're bawling like a baby, and you're so proud of something. And a lot of guys and gals hold on to that. They don't go off to do and build a business and do whatever, but they always hold on to that memory. So I think the same thing kind of works for my daughter. She's just a constant reminder of all of the things I still can be.
That's awesome, man. That is an excellent answer. And I resonate with all that because I see it every day. I learn new things every day, things that cannot be taught to me from the Marine Corps side that I'm learning from raising little humans. I completely agree. Um, so I want to get into this, and if you don't want to get into it, that's fine. Please say so. But you have mentioned twice now that you've died before. What does that mean?
Yeah. So when I was with First Recon Battalion.
Yeah.
We were going at that time. They were kind of underfunded. They were part of First Mardiv, so they were doing a kind of an OJT program. So I was one of the only few that ever went through kind of an OJT program.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
traditionally, you go to BRC or ARS, and you'd go through your school, you'd come back, and you would get the designation. I'm not sure. I don't think it's still together now, but you get your 0321 designation. But we were real small. We were attached to headquarters, so they had pulled over a couple of us infantry guys, and I had always wanted to be part of recon. But my drill instructor was like, "Yeah, get some tenure, get some time into the fleet a little bit, and then make that decision if you want to go." So I kind of followed that process. Realized that I wanted to do that, and had an open opportunity to join First Recon when I got back from Okinawa. And I went in and part of the OJT program. Went through training. We were with all the operators. We were running through pre-scuba and prepping as they were going to all of their schools. And it was just it was a great opportunity. During that time, it was just prior to 9/11. We had gotten some much needed liberty, and a couple of guys I served with 3-4 had just finished up sniper school. So we had a good friend of ours that lived up the road in Corona, California, and they said, listen, we get some time, let's go up there and go hang out with his family and just kind of enjoy a warm cooked meal from his mom and play some basketball and just kind of goof off. So I was getting ready to uh, wrap up trying to get out of there before the salty corporal come in and try to haze us a little bit, before we were getting ready to go on limo. So we jumped on a motorcycle, I head out the back of the base. And at the time, MS-13 was targeting gang members in Southern California, or targeting military for gang initiation. So as I was coming off the back of the base, 3 of them had targeted me in a car, and they drove and hit me off my motorcycle, and I caught the corner of a brick house at 45 miles an hour. So basically every bone in my upper body was broken, collarbone, shoulder blade, all of my ribs were shattered. My ribs and had punctured my lungs and all of my major organs, cut my kidneys, spleen, and liver, and my left bicep was lacerated. So when I hit the ground, they got out and started kicking, beating me, robbing me, and they assumed I was dead. And because of obviously the gang and the situation where I was at, come off the back of the base, no one really helped me. So I got up, put my right hand over my left bicep, and walked 2 blocks to a fire station, taking 1 full breath every minute. So I was bleeding internally, and because my entire chest cavity had broken in half, my skin was expanding. So I'll still to this day can kind of remember looking down and watching my chest fill up with fluid, and then it was pouring out of my mouth and out of my arm. And I got into a fire station after kind of bleeding out, and they brought in a bay flight, got into the helicopter, and they started to put chest tubes in. And then I flatlined out the first time. And when you have a flailed chest where your entire upper torso is kind of broken, you really can't do chest compressions, obviously, because it's going to cause more problems. So they hit me with the paddles, brought me back. I actually got to the hospital. We landed, flatlined out again. And this one was for quite some time. They brought me back again, got into the hospital. They started intubating me. I flatlined out for the 3rd time. And this one, I was out for a bit, then they called back to command and let them know that I didn't make it. So fast forward, without making the story super long, I basically ended up learning how to walk, talk, breathe again. I was in the hospital civilian hospital for about 7 to 8 months. And then had to heal, so I couldn't have surgeries because of my lungs were so messed up.
Yeah.
So basically got back to recon. Again, there's not much they can do just because of where I was at. So I was there with the unit and then just kind of rehabbing myself. Of course, about the time I was just about healthy, 9/11 happened, so our obviously battalion recon, 1st recon was on alert, getting ready to hit Hawaii and then deploy out. So for the most part, that's pretty much it. And it's, that's how I died.
Well, that's a hell of a story, man. Wow. That's, I'm sorry that happened, man. But you're here now, and that's the great part of it.
Yeah, man, well, we all go through stages of our mental state with it. I think the biggest thing is, why me? Second chance at life. A lot of guys I served with, didn't come back, didn't make it, didn't come home to their families. So I think I'd love to sit here and say that I do all the things that I do with the work that I've done in the military community and civilian community because I'm some great person. My daughter would probably say that, but I think for me, it's just penance. It's rent due every month for blessing me with such a great opportunity to be here, to be a part of this. I mean, I still only have 30% use of my right hand. I have severe nerve damage. I've only got 40% use of my lungs. I've got issues that are just getting faster and faster. I literally just got back from the VA last week, and the lady was like, you've got about 20 years off your life with all the problems you've got. I've got all this therapy I've got to go through, all these things I'm doing. So there's those days where you wake up and you're a little angry at the world because of the pain and the suffering. But I think ultimately I just pay back. God gave me this just amazing human to be with and this experience and be able to have these type of conversations and share my story and hopefully inspire other people. And it's just dead owed, man. I gotta keep paying.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, and I don't know if anybody's ever asked you this or if anybody's ever thought of the idea of asking you this. I'm just really, really curious because you said you flatlined like 3 times. You're basically in and out of consciousness 3 times, essentially dying 3 times, at least within that time frame of getting hit on the bike and then the last time that they brought you back to consciousness. In those times, if you can remember, if anything comes to your mind, when you were shifting in and out of consciousness, was there anything that stood out in your mind of like this reoccurring thought or anything that like a voice that you heard in the back of your mind
Yeah,
as you were going through this process? Anything profound like that?
I actually get asked that question a lot. So, um, there's the conscious and subconscious. So the conscious part of me was like, I just need water. You know, I had lost so much blood
Mm,
that the only thing I could think of, like even to this day, it is so traumatic. Still, I only drink water and coffee. That's it. I can't drink anything else. Because of the, it's like you see in the movies, the guy's dying, the blood's coming out, and he's like, just give him water, like that is very, very true. And it's just, because your body's lost so much blood, obviously you need the water to kind of replenish and your body's dehydrated. I think your body holds, what is it, maybe 6 pints of blood. I lost probably 75% of that during that experience. So for me, it was just water. But the question that most people ask is, did I see God? Did I get over to the other side, kind of, right? And so the answer is kind of like this. Was there any kind of like physical being that really come to me at any point and was like you see in the movies? Then no. Well, what I will tell you is that I had a choice. I will give you that. The third time I flatlined out, it was so long that, and to be honest with you, I really wanted to give up. I can't explain to you without getting really into it, the pain, the amount of pain I was going through. It was just, it was excruciating, the amount of pain. And though a posture here earlier in the conversation, never give up and be hardcore, like I wanted to give up. I mean, the amount of agony and pain that I was going through just through that experience was terrifying. And um, there was a moment, and I say a moment again, I don't know how long that time was, but for me, that moment was as I'm sitting there, there's a voice in the back of my head that says, you have two options, right? And I'm really dumbing it down because obviously our brains, trying to understand it, but you have two options. You can give up. And it's a guilt-free give up, right? Guilt-free, get out of jail free card. Like, you don't have to feel guilty for giving up, like because you gave up. This is a choice that if you're willing to walk through this path, you can come with me and everything will be okay. And man, when people ask me that question, like I still get chills talking about it. Like when people ask me that question on stage or when I'm speaking or I'm sharing this kind of thing with people personally and professionally, I always say, what gives me the competitive advantage over generally most people is that I know for 100% fact that everything you worry about, one day you'll never have to worry because the euphoria, the experience that I got to experience, that I was so blessed to experience, of just feeling like it's okay. Like we have so much noise in our life, right? Like just constant, right? It's like bills, life, relationships, people, problem. I mean, it's just hitting us all the time. Boom, 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 just constantly coming at us. Like I can only probably relate it to what someone must feel like the most pristine form of meditation. And it was really just the feeling of that one true security where I am the only thing that matters. And the arms of love are wrapped around me and then I'm just going to go into this euphoria experience of life, and I've done it. And that's a that's a hard one to not choose that path. That's a hard one to not kind of look at that experience and say, wow, it's addicting and leads me to the second part of that. So the other part was you can live, right, and experience all life still has for you, and you're going to go through a ton of pain. And buddy, did they stay true to that comment? Because obviously, I always say jokes on you guys. In that story, I decided to live. Right here, I am. So, um, and I have done nothing but endure pain since that experience. And I think again, it's just understanding the difference between, there is an opportunity at the end that your family, your friends, your loved ones, yourself will be okay. Everything is going to be okay. So when people, they'll usually segue into the next question. They'll say, well, how do you do all these world records and how do you run across America and do anything? And I say, again, it's another selfish thing. When you've experienced that story I just told you, when you get to that fine line to the end and you kind of hop over and that there's kind of like, the best way I can explain it is if you ever went through McQuist or you ever went through combat diet, or any kind of water training, maybe even boot camp. And I don't remember if in boot camp they try to drown you or not, but they definitely do it in pre-scuba and McQuist and all that stuff, right? So
And they teach you as you're underwater, as you start to see that black come here and it gets closer and closer and closer, you just catch it, right? As long as you catch it before then, you're not going to pass out. But you got to know right when. And for me, when I do that crazy stuff, even though my body is in pain and I'm sick to my stomach 24/7 and I only sleep 2 hours a night and I do everything, it's the closest form to that experience. And I guess what would be God to just kind of teeter, right? Like just kind of almost look over to the side, like look over a little bit and realize like, okay, it's still there. And it's luckily I think for some people it goes into alcohol and drugs for their experience and their addiction. For me, it was doing the stuff that I do to push myself, put myself in so much pain that I almost kind of feel like maybe I might get that chance to kind of bounce back and forth. I hope that answered your question. That was a little deep, but that's kind of the gist.
No, totally. That's why I was actually trying to get as deep as possible and not go too like crazy with it and
Yeah,
too esoteric.
yeah.
My follow-up question for that isn't necessarily what everybody else said, but I was curious to know, or I am curious to know, through the years of recovering from that incident, has there been any like Archimedes lever type thing that's helped you through pain, through mental anguish, through building the resiliency to move on to the next day, to the next, like anything that you can recognize in that path of like this thing really, really 10x'd my experience, even though, you know, it may be, it's like, okay, my arm's not hurting as much today as it was the last 6 months or something like that. You know, does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yeah. No. So
Not,
if my daughter was not around, I don't think I would be around. I think when she's my emotional support animal, and I don't try to put that pressure on her, you know, so I don't have that dialogue. But
right.
it is obviously this open dialogue in the veteran community and military community. You know, it is the to go through the experience I went through and see so many people go through pain. Pain becomes your friend, and sometimes not always your best friend, a good friend. You know, you got to be careful of it because it can put you in different directions. I think for me to be able to see my daughter, it takes everything that I think is that could be good about me and it puts it into this amazing person. And that is my reminder of why I continue to push and be a part of something. I was homeless for a couple of years prior to her being born, went through my challenges and experience. And, look on the outside, people say, oh, you built businesses and you went through these challenges and you do that. And I guess they want that like David Goggins kind of presentation of like, nothing ever penetrates me. And I think that's just a bunch of bullshit. Like, I mean, everything penetrates me. I feel the pain every day. I question that all the time. I mean, that's just the reality of it. That doesn't mean that I'm not a David Goggins. I'm just not gonna, I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to give up. But is it a constant reminder, of it again, teetering on that side and realizing that the other side's kind of nice over there. It's hard to kind of stay in this range and endure the pain and go through it. But when you look at the blessings and you start to realize in the conscious world, when I see my daughter and I see her building her skills and being a part of something and doing whatever, what kind of selfish punk would I be to run away from this person who needs me so much just because I want to focus on my own pain? And that's not how it works. That's not how it works when you have children. At least for me, anyways. What I am here, I am of service. I am of service to her. I am her father, and I will continue to live and be here as long as possible, doing everything I need to until God decides to take me from that. But as of right now, my own selfish reasons of why maybe I want to do something will never overpower the fact that I'm a leader to her and I will continue to be there.
So, T. Shane, tell me about your. I know you brought it up a couple of times. Tell me about your walks across America or your runs across America and your world records. I've been reading a lot about that, man, and I'm impressed by it for one, and I think I want to try out your push-up record to see what I can do with that. I don't know if I'm there yet, but tell me about that, man. It's pretty fascinating to me.
Yeah. So, in a nutshell, I have ran across America about 4 times. I've covered a little over 11,000 miles. Normally, what I did is every year from September 11th to November 11th, I would run anywhere between the gist of it was 22 miles a day for 65 days straight.
Wow.
It became part of a platform when I was homeless for a couple of years. I always said, when I kind of build my business, get myself back in a situation based on that, that experience and the challenges I went through with that I'd find a way to give back. And it really first kind of started off as like it was like a 400-mile run was the first one from Orlando to the Panhandle of Florida.
Mhm.
And it was really just to kind of raise awareness. I was helping with some homeless veteran issues and, figured to kind of tell the story. And then eventually it turned into I'm going to run across America because we started to find that um, when you look at the homeless community and veteran suicides, and we're not really digging into it, we're very surface level. So I would sleep at homeless camps, I'd sleep under bridges, Skid Row, some of the worst places, the tunnels of Las Vegas. And then we would go and kind of talk to organizations along the way, almost kind of like a campaign, where a tour per se, where we would go in and I would share my experience about being homeless and how you don't have to be a byproduct of the system. You can make a difference, make a change, go out and do something. And then it really resonated with people, just my story and the experience. And then I just went on to the following year. I ran from New York to Florida. That year, I carried a 100-pound pack as part of as part of the platform. I spoke to military installations all the way down the East Coast, and then that was I think my second world record attempt. The first one was the fastest marathon carrying a 100-pound pack. And then I did the fastest 1 mile carrying a 100-pound pack during the middle of a ODU football game. And then when kind of COVID came throughout my runs and hikes and stuff, obviously running across America and having that platform was a little challenging. So I still wanted to get back. Again, this is all part of paying my penance. I wanted to continue to get back, find a way to push something to the extreme, kind of feel a little alive per se. And I thought, you know what? I was like, I want to look at some push-up world records. When I was at First Reconnaissance, I got kind of made fun of in a good way because when we were kind of chaining through pre-scuba, I got in trouble for being a smartass, and I got pulled out by one of the operational docs, and he says, "Hey, we're gonna do push-ups until Johnson gets tired." Little did he know, my father was a professional bull rider for many years and
Yeah.
a prison guard, and we used to do flip card prison push-ups since I was like 8 years old. So I just never got tired, and they were like, "All right, well, Johnson apparently never gets tired doing push-ups," and it was like a running joke forever. And they put us back in the water and hazed us some more. But I thought, with my injuries, I can't do a whole lot, but I can still push, even though my hands are all messed up. I can still kind of push.
Mhm.
So the National Purple Heart Mission was raising some funds for a museum up in New York, and some people reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you be willing to kind of do that for the cause?" So I went and found the hardest record. It was most push-ups in 12 hours. The record hadn't been broken since 1989, and I think the record at the time was 19,825, if I remember correctly, in 12 hours. And then they had a 1 hour record that nobody in the United States had done. It was like a couple of guys from Australia and New England or England. And so I was like, well, what I'll do is I'll do them both. I'll do the 1 hour record and I'll just keep going and do the 12-hour record. So I did the 1 hour record. I did, I think it was 3,085 in an hour. And then I went on to do almost 20,000 in 12 hours for the 12-hour record. And then this year I'm going to do my final. My daughter and I are actually going to do it this year. We're going to do another hike across America in partnership with United Way and Mission United. And we'll start kind of building out that campaign. Then the push-up world record has since been broken. And I'm going to, but it's all guys overseas. So I'm going to pull it back and try to do it one more time and wrap it up this year. But it's a little bit about it.
And then when you do those push-ups, and I'm sorry, maybe I had missed it. And is there like do you team up with some kind of a organization, or do like proceeds go to or something?
Yeah. So every year I try to find some type of organization that we want to support or help. And then I just build that campaign around it to raise money for their cause. So I go out and I'll get corporate sponsors or people who want to be a part of it. And then we go out on national media, we'll go on Fox or Stuart Barney or Piers Morgan or something, we'll build a big campaign and audience around it. And then we'll try to use that as a platform to help raise funds for a cause. So this year we're still kind of trying to figure out, it's usually always a veteran cause or something with children.
Yeah.
So this year we may kind of tie on both end. We're really trying to focus on, obviously with our coffee farming is agricultural and farming in America. So, we're still trying to work the kinks out. So we're early on. We'll definitely push that this year.
Gotcha, man. That's awesome. And then your coffee farm, that's all like American based, right? Like, is there any importation or anything like that from other countries, or just you do it in house here?
Yeah, so we obviously everybody has different tastes.
Yeah.
We're the first and only indoor hydroponic coffee farm in the United States. So we're
Mm.
kind of still in the R&D stages of developing these farms because our bigger vision is we're starting to see especially what's interesting is you'll go out to the country in these mountain areas and these little towns and it's just like all Marines. It's like they just get away from everybody, and they run out and they go out back out into the country and they kind of on their own and they got their own little community and so you start to get more and more involved, and you realize rural America and the farming community is something that's just dissipating. It's becoming kind of scorched earth with cities and communities, and it's lack of money. It's the increase in property taxes. It's the lack of economic development and within the system, so they don't have support. People for some reason think when you get a tomato, it just magically grows. And then you're seeing that with coffee right now. You're seeing this massive increase of coffee prices when in fact it's really just been that everybody's been screwing over the farmers over in other countries for the longest time. And now finally the demand is where it is and the climate problems are happening. They're having to pay fair market price. So we've enjoyed this coffee, but it's been really more the healthy margins of the larger corporations that have been dominating it. So when I went through this program at Appalachian State for disabled veterans called Frontline to Farm, my daughter and I were doing coffee. I was like, I wonder why no one does coffee. And then when I started to do research, there wasn't any. And they just through a series of a lot of failures and a lot of great relationships and partnerships, we started to develop it. And then, of course, we just produced our first harvest. We should have it graded pretty soon. And then we created this kind of this Chick-fil-A model in the sense to where now we're going to be putting these coffee farms, throughout the United States is the goal. Put veterans through our Frontline to Farm program to where they can kind of learn how to farm coffee and they can be indoors. They don't have to worry about the weather. They don't have to worry about the challenges come through it. They can hang out with their family, and they can build a great model that will be, American grown, American made coffee right here. So that way we don't have to import a product. I mean, because really coffee is just it's all a rig. I mean, we throw American flag on our bags and we say here, but what we did was cook it here. We didn't really grow it here. I mean, there's a couple places, but ultimately you're getting your coffee from somewhere else. We're trying to go back and do something no one's ever done and say, no, we're getting ready to make American grown coffee right here with farms developed by veterans that have fought for this country. And then they can enjoy their land like they want to, because if we start creating an agritourism platform that can allow these veterans to make money and employ people, they don't have to go to the cities. They don't have to lose their properties. They don't have to increase property taxes. We can keep these small towns, small towns. I mean, I always say, listen, I'm not trying to go to a big city and turn it into a small town. Don't come to my small town and try and turn it into a big city. Come and enjoy it, support the local businesses, support rural America, allow us to be who we are. You can keep going up in your cities, build another level, go up, do whatever you got to do. But, at the end of the day, there's something to be said about walking downtown a small town in Tryon where we live, and my daughter sitting down and having coffee with the mayor, and walking down to each one of the businesses and people waving and talking to her. I know that when she goes out that door and she walks up the street to grab a meal down from the local, Trade Street Dinery, that I don't have to worry about if something's going to happen to her. I know every business owner is talking to her and walking with her and engaging. And there's something about that. People will come and travel from all over to experience that, and she gets to live that. So this is really just a gimmick and another hook to find a way to keep the infrastructure of our amazing country and allow people to enjoy for what it's worth. Come in, spend the money, enjoy, go back to your city. But I want people to be able to be a part of something. And I think this model is going to help farmers create an additional revenue stream that will allow them to really enjoy that property so that the kids don't sell off or spec homes.
That's excellent, man. And what was the name of that course, that program at Appalachian State?
Yes, sir. It's a Frontline to Farm program.
Frontline to Farm.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we got to get that out there. So we've talked to a lot of folks on the podcast who they run the programs, like they're maybe company owners, and maybe they want to open up to like SkillBridge. Have you ever thought of that? Maybe opening up to SkillBridge and becoming a part of that program?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're laying that infrastructure right now. We're just putting together. So the idea is we have Appalachian State doing a documentary on this. We're starting to prep to put that together because we're going to follow the series of obviously my story, Charlie's story, and then of course our Run Across America this year and then our Push Up record and kind of showing that full circle of service. I mean, that's one thing I think that it allows us to obtain our, continue our mission is being of service. That's our purpose. As long as we have a purpose and a direction, we're very effective in that. We can continue to move forward. So, the idea is that as we
kind of build that and put that structure in, and we've got it, then we'll work on with Skill Bridge and then implement it in through Frontline Farm program, and then be able to allow veterans to say, listen, you want to build an organic coffee farm, indoors, and then they would go through that program and subsidize and help and support them.
That's excellent, man. Well, yeah. So giving back to the veterans, man, I love that part. Have you had any veterans currently like come and ask you about it? Like, hey, can you teach me about this? Like had like one-on-ones with any folks?
Yeah, absolutely. We get it a lot. We're actually we just partnered with, so we just kind of started our first stage of replicating our farm. So we have a disabled veteran in Kentucky. He's going to open up a farm there. So we're going to basically come in and, put in as part as an investor. We're going to help them build the farm. We're going to put it on site. It's going to go through the Frontline Farm program. And then, so our large distribution channels, that's why we're really trying to get in front of large big box retail like Walmart and Sprouts and Whole Foods and so on and so forth, because we want to secure contracts for these farmers. So if we go in and we build a farm for, Juan in Kentucky, and he's got his farm up, we want to secure it to say a Walmart store that's down the way, so that it's a true farm to cup experience when it comes to coffee. So that way, basically, that Walmart store is supporting this farmer, and it's a direct chain for them to be able to harvest, roast, package, and then send out to the retailer. And that's really what we're trying to do with the retailers. We're saying, listen, we can create the freshest and most dynamic coffee that you have. Again, within variety. Obviously, we can't grow every single variety of coffee. There's 140 or 130 different varieties of coffee. But
Right.
we can grow a great Honduran or a Peruvian coffee. We can grow Kona. But again, it depends on, there's a lot of factors that go into that. But for the most part, we can assign that product to that big box retailer. And then just like, think about it when you go in your natural grocery store and you walk over to the produce section, and you're looking there and it may say locally grown by this family or this farm. Well, now instead of your coffee being over in the dry goods section, it'll be right there with our, potentially trees growing, and knowing that coffee came right from a farmer right down the road.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And when you had mentioned something, the rig of, slapping something on there that says, maybe roasted in the USA or something like that, but they don't actually source their beans, from the USA. That's a big thing, I think, in a lot of products, right? I see the label a lot. It says designed in the USA, or assembled in the USA, but everything's kind of outsourced from different spots. You're going to be the one-stop shop here. You're going to be, you're grown here in the USA, you're packaged here, and then you're sourced, and you're on the shelves in the USA. So it's all in-house. That's awesome.
Yeah, we're hoping to eliminate supply chain issues, tariff
Yeah.
increases, and truly bring jobs right here to rural America, to create a great infrastructure for them to generate revenue, create jobs. I mean, that's originally we were, manufacturers, right? Like, we just over the years became a service-based country, and I think that bringing it back here to where we build and grow and sustain here, especially, when you take innovation and technology, and you kind of take it with old traditional farming skills and you merge those together. It doesn't have to be one or the other. You can amplify those. It's kind of like when you made, the beginning of your show, and you're talking about Marines, and passing the audits. And of course, that's probably like kind of a little funny smirk in a sense, because Marines are usually not known for being smart in that, when in fact, they excel in
Yes.
things. So it's kind of a small little, well, I guess we don't need crayons. Huh? We use them to do the audit correctly. So it's kind of interesting in that perspective, of realizing that we can take innovation and technology and we can merge it in with traditional farming, and we can create something so unique and so amazing that, look, we're not the coffee business. We're not coffee farmers. And what I mean by that is, we will never compare to a Brazilian coffee farm. We'll never be an African coffee farm. That's not what we are. We're a whole thing totally unto itself. We are an add-on supply chain that delivers an American-made product, right? And at the end of the day, when you buy that bag, or you're a part of that, it starts at the infrastructure of here within the United States. People will always want different flavors, and that's great. We should always have that, relationships with other countries that allow us to have diversity and products and taste and everything. That's what America is, right? We're a melting pot of all those things. But this is really just more of a kind of a straight line of, look, okay, great, but when you get this coffee, this will be an American farmer. This will be American grown coffee. No matter what, all trees of coffee pretty much come from Africa anyways. It's just dispersed out through the Dutch early on. It all comes from the original tree. But ultimately, we will grow it here, we will roast it here, we will serve it here, and we will recycle it here. And we'll create our own little niche within our own market that has nothing to do with that will hopefully provide something that is super unique and allow the consumer to say, you know what, if I'm going to buy a bag of coffee or I'm going to support something, I'm going to support this, veteran right down the road that's developing and building this farm. It's part of something.
That's excellent, man.
Yeah, and that's also a big part of what we try to do here is not only get the veteran stories out and get information in the hands of veterans who are making that bridge from military uniform to civilian life, but also just highlight along the way. Like that's why I love about these live streams and some of these things we do on Sundays is we get to highlight organizations that are benefiting veterans, organizations that like yourself that are teaching veterans how to do hydroponic farming in their local area and holding their hand along the way and walking them through the steps and teaching them how to do that. And then at the end we have this product that comes out that's 100% American made, packaged in America, roasted in America. It's the epitome of the American dream product that we really don't have a ton of that anymore because everything in some shape or form gets outsourced somewhere. So I really love that, and I applaud the fact that you guys are doing that. You and your daughter both.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, man. It's of course, obviously, platforms like you guys is what gets the word out. I mean, we can do all the work here in silence, but for you guys being able to serve and be a part of that and support the community is, it's a combined unified effort. I think we all see the same thing. It's just a matter of getting us all on the right platforms and being able to get out there. And again, when you go back to the question of the SBA and the money, it's sometimes I wish they'd really pay attention to that. If we focused on when you look at the statistics of the veteran community and the success rate, right? So when you look at the ability of looking, say, prior 1980s, when you had probably 75% of the S&P 500 CEOs were military, right? And now you've got less than 8%. And when you look at the factors of back during that time, and you see the statistics of, the lack of fraud, the success of analyzing and running a business, and all the things that come along with that. And it's interesting that when you go to look at for funding and we look at it as more of a kind of a diversity section, it's like, oh, I'm disabled veteran. And it's like, man, okay, great. I'm still smart, like I'm still going to run things the right way. I'm still going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
My brain is still functioning. If you're going to support and put money behind system, put money behind. You did it when we were in the government. You were willing to give me billions of dollars of responsibility, but you won't give me $85,000 to run my business. It's a bunch of BS. Like you see, based on my platform and the success that you're having your job of, that we were able to accomplish things that we are the largest dominating corporation in the entire world. It's the United States military. Hands down, no one will ever be who we are, right? Set aside being in the Marine Corps, right? So if I'm coming to you as a business and I'm developing a plan and you're nitpicking me on checkboxes about how I should, will I be successful? Well, you damn right it'll be successful because I've been part of 200 plus years of success, right? Like we've already proven ourselves, right? All you need to do is make sure that if that money and that funding comes in here, that we get some guidance on the best way to use it with the most effective mentors. Don't just throw us out to the wolves and, say, oh, well, good luck. I want people that have been successful. If you're going to get a mentor on that platform, get someone that's made some money and exited, because one thing we always talk about in business is that, that just continuous, well, we'll just do it forever. No, we got exit strategies here. Let's exit these businesses and sell these businesses and allow these veterans who've only got, their years for the normal person is this, and a veteran's already tore themselves up this much. They've got this much time. Let's exit that business. Let's get them some money. There's nothing wrong with the money. I don't know why we look at it like it's such a bad thing. I always say, the one thing about being in the military is the biggest socialist system defending a capitalist platform, right? It literally is. Like, we're given everything in that sense that, we're handed everything. And I don't mean that we're handed everything, obviously we aren't, but I mean, we're in an infrastructure that supports us in that. Then we get out to the real world and we have to kind of go, oh, well, we've got to build and we've got to do things. We've just got this proven track record, and I think it would be important for those entities to look at that and say, okay, if I'm going to put my money on something, this one's got a proven track record. Let's put the money on it, and then let's lay the infrastructure for the mentors to see that these veterans can make money, right? And they can support their families, and they can go and live their life. What's so wrong with exiting a company in 4 or 5 years? You sell it, you make a good amount of money. You're just going to amplify this already service-based person who's an amazing human already that's already proven that they're willing to sacrifice just their own life for $1,000 a month to give to an entire stranger So why not allow them the opportunity to build a business, live off an amazing capitalist system, make some money? Because I'm gonna tell you what they're gonna do. They're not gonna keep it all. They're just gonna give. They're gonna give to another veteran organization. They're gonna help someone else. They're gonna raise their kids and build their family. They're gonna continue to serve. And I think if when you look at the economical, buildup of that, when you say that $1 turn into free for everyone spent, I mean that's what a great profile platform, to get behind. So yeah, I'm getting a little fired up about that, but it just it frustrates me.
That's all good, man, because that's how things happen.
That's
You
right.
know, I like it.
It frustrates me that there's so many resources out there, and we're having to be like, oh, the veteran this and the man, give that fool some money. Let's get a good mentorship. Let's let them build that business and let them run. They're going to be successful. They've already proven it.
Yeah, it's that can-do attitude. I think I think a lot of veterans have that. And everybody that we've talked to on this platform, it feels like their service from the time in uniform directly relates to what they're doing outside of uniform, right? Their heart is in the service, to continue to serve for a bigger purpose of themselves that never stops. It's evident in you. It's evident in every one of the guests that we've had here. So I can see why you're getting riled up about it, because it's a real thing, and more people should get riled up about it, because that's how progress happens. We move forward like that.
Well, maintain the integrity of that confidence. That's a key thing. So, if I had to go back to that portion of really getting that funding and doing that stuff, I mean, they really need to get better about that. It'd be great to see, because there are so many people with so many great ideas and so many great businesses that can do so much, and definitely proven way more than others, than some little, skinny jean wearing, tech. So these guys they got their stuff together. Let's get them the money and let them build those businesses, because they're going to employ more veterans. They're going to build more platforms. They're going to help with more mortgages. They're going to help with more kids through college. They're going to be the backbone. We just need to get behind that.
Yeah. So T-Shane, I want to ask you, let's go back in time here real quick and think about the advice that I'm curious, the advice that you would give yourself as a kid in order to become successful. If you could do something different, what advice would you give yourself as a kid? If you can take it all back and go back and talk to your former self.
That's a good question. My first initial response is nothing, because I'm exactly where I need to be in the world of things. Absolutely nothing, because then you might shift something. I might lose my daughter. I might lose all the opportunities, all the great people I've been a part of. But for the sake of the question and the dialogue and context of the podcast, I think if anything, it would be to be more focused on taking care of myself. When you do get very service-based, I think sometimes you don't value yourself as much as you do random strangers. And when in reality, that if you focus and take care of yourself, don't feel guilty for it. Don't feel guilty for taking that time to relax and focus on you, because you realize when you do that, how much more support that you'll have. And I think the hardest part about that is when I'm in the Corps and something's wrong with me, I have that camaraderie, right? Like I can go back to somebody and they'll say, hey man, I got you. They'll say a few other choice words first to razz you some, but at the end of the day, they got you no matter what. I mean,
Right.
No matter what. There's no judgment. There's no your background, your skin color, nothing. It is just you are who you are for face value. And there's so much confidence in that. Like when you're slacking or you're going back and they're just like, you got this, you can believe it. I mean, it's the biggest part. I think when you get in the civilian world, or even when I was younger, I lacked that ability to realize the value in me. And once you start to understand the value in you, and you take care of yourself, and you take that time to pay attention to yourself, you'll realize ultimately you'll be able to serve and help people.
That's excellent, man. Yeah. And I completely agree with you on doing things a little bit different, because you don't want to mess up what you already have. Right. I've been asked that question before, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm kind of content with my life now. I don't, I'd still like to meet my wife and my kids at some point in time, throughout my life, but here's what I would do different, so no, I appreciate your answer for that.
Yes, sir. Of course.
You mentioned exit strategy. I'm curious to know if you already have it in mind, what your exit strategy looks like and what you would look forward to in that exit strategy. Maybe it's 5 years, maybe it's 10 years. what does that kind of look like?
So when my daughter and I first put this business together, one of the first exercises we did is we always talked about an exit strategy. So a lot of people, some people like that, some people don't. I don't think that, look, if you have an opportunity to do something, I usually tell most people, like, you live a lifestyle based on what you're compensated, right? So if you receive a certain amount of money, then your lifestyle decisions are going to be made based on that, right? So if you win the lottery, obviously you may make some different lifestyle changes. And so when I sat down with my daughter, and again, I am speaking totally in the context as an executive leadership coach, business coach, as a business person. So when we had those conversations and I sat down, I said, well, the first thing we need to do is we need to determine how much money we want to exit for so that we can live the life that we want. Now, that life may be to continue to grow the company, right? She may go to college, come back, say she wants to build a business. But remember, I didn't come up with this. So it's not my decision to say, well, here's what we're going to do. It's going to be her decision. So when I sat down, I said, all right, do you want to do coffee forever? And she's like, well, I don't know. And I said, okay, well, let's build an exit. So the first thing that we did is we took a check, we had a business check. And I said, you tell me the amount of what you think. And remember, you have to understand, you haven't met my daughter. You have to understand the dialogue we have and the relationship we built in the way that I've raised her is that I don't put limits on her thought process, clearly, right? That's why we're doing hydroponic coffee. I want her to understand what number can be enough to invest, live off of, sustain, and then make choices of the life that you want, not off of necessity of can I pay my bills, but off of choice based on what you really want to do, right? Because again, a lot of us make decisions based on what our income is, right? So, we'd be like, I'd probably be sitting out at the beach, hanging out all day long, drinking Mai Tais. Okay, well, you gotta have money to do that, right? So, most of us aren't like, I would be sitting at the house, So when we did that, I had her write that number down, and she wrote that number down, and I keep it in my wallet every day. And we say, when we have an opportunity to get to this number based on our evaluation of where we are, then we will reevaluate that and say, we now are in a situation to where we've reached that number. What would you like to do? And she was interviewed for a documentary a couple of weeks ago, and somebody kind of asked her that question. And she says, well, my goal currently right now is to stay here and work with my dad, go to college. She wants to go to Wharton's eventually, I guess, is her choice right now. And again, she's homeschooled. And then she wants to come back and run the company and then build it as big as she wants it. And then she goes, I want dad to be out of it, and I want him to go and enjoy his life and, do whatever he wants to do, right? So that's our current path right now. From an exit standpoint, it's all based off that original check. So we go off that original check, then she and I do an evaluation once we get to that point on the company. And then from there, we would determine our exit strategy. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we're not in the coffee bag business, even though that is part of our brand now. And that's how we're growing. We have to capitalize the business through that, through utilizing different blends. We're in the farming business. Our goal is to develop and build farms on behalf of supporting the veterinary community. If we decide we want to stay in it, great. But for me, man, I've knocked 20 something years off my life from my injuries and where I'm at. I want to spend time with my daughter. Someday she's going to have a family. I don't want to be, one thing I will always say, the great thing about what I did with this business is I have never, ever missed something of my daughter's. Ever. I refuse. I'll never miss an event, a time she wants me there, nothing. I am never going to go to a job and make a decision to choose that job over my daughter's time. Because from somebody that's died, I know how important time is. So this business is really just a culmination of that selfishness of being around her as much as possible and finding reasons for us to be together. Every time we're on a TV show or do something, that's just a scrapbook for us, right? That's just an opportunity to look back one day and say, wasn't that cool when we did this, or when you published your book, or we went on Kelly Clarkson, or we did this together. Remember we went to New York, we went to Chicago, we had fun. It allows us to kind of build a story. So, but again, from a systematic approach, our exit is based off of that number. Once we have that number, then from there we'll make a determination of the next steps.
Now, T-Shane, I'm curious, man, because I'm sure you heard the fire alarm going off here in my house earlier today. Kids making pancakes, right? So I try to give my kids as much independence as possible, right? Hey, if you want to do something, shoot, my kid just walked up to me with a business idea yesterday, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm going to talk to T-Shane tomorrow. Let me see what he's got to say real quick. but yeah, I'm very business minded as well, you know, and I'm very curious about your I guess the way you guide your daughter. Is there any like specific subject, like maybe I know you homeschool her, but anything that you focus on to kind of expand her mind a little bit, either business mind or otherwise?
Well, when you're in kind of what we do, I think she gets to be like, so for instance, we our consultant that helps us, that's in partnership with us on this, is
Mhm.
the former head plant scientist at NASA. So his job was basically working on growing produce and space exploration.
Yeah.
So and this farm you're looking at is inside a community college locally. So one of the things that I learned as my daughter was being homeschooled is community college has no age requirement. So if my daughter wants to take a college course, a college class, even though she's homeschooled at this community college, she can actually go do that. So I, let's say public speaking, so on and so forth. So we get the opportunity to be able to have access to all of these resources you wouldn't have in the traditional model. So one day, Charlie will be sitting around, she's walking around with a NASA scientist, right? And they work together. And they're chit-chatting, and he's showing her this, and we're going through ECs and nutrients, and she's learning programs. The next day, she may be sitting down where we're going to Chicago, sitting in front of 6 of the largest big box retailers, executives, where she's talking and having communication.
Mhm.
We talk about, we read motivational books. That's kind of one of the things that we go through. We'll go through certain types, like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Part of her project is she'll go through the book, she'll read it, and then she'll write a story on it, kind of letting me know what she learned from it. And then we apply it, which is even better because most of the time you don't have the ability to apply it. But when you have that business model and you learn about, Napoleon Rich's, when he did that book, Burning Desire, right? What's a burning desire? So she gets to apply that and say, okay, and then I'll ask questions. Well, how do we put that into our business? And it's very applicable. We'll go through sales training, which is a large part of what I teach her. We'll go through that structure. We'll talk about it in the school. We'll utilize the traditional way of school, what she learned just on her homeschooling program, and then we'll go and we'll automatically apply it to the platform within our business. So it's very much intertwined in that when we're kind of doing our work and teaching her. We talk about leadership. Of course, she's part of all my speaking engagements. So if we go and speak to a bunch of Marines or military, or we're standing on stage, she's out shaking hands, she's connecting, she's learning interpersonal skills. So I lay that on just about every part, and again, trusting her enough without being embarrassed as a parent, right? And again, thinking we know everything. And she'll
Right.
always say that. She goes, Dad, she goes, I got friends and they're other dads and they're nothing like you. She's like, you trust me to sit here to handle this, $10 million, potential contract. I'm like, yeah, well, why not? You got this. She'll do TV, news and articles, and we'll sit down and we'll write them. And we'll go over the questions before our stuff. And we'll talk about it. So all these things are part of that training and program that we can put in. And then she's so much further advanced than other kids, with that knowledge. And it just allows her to exponentially grow. Yeah. So.
You ever thought about putting together some kind of a course maybe on, the way you lead your daughter, the way you prep her for business and life? You ever thought about putting something together?
We've been asked that a couple of times. Obviously, there's a need for it. It just
Mhm.
our bandwidth's a little short right now. So
Yeah.
we're thinking about doing a podcast, but kind of like in this setup. But I think right now my attention is again focused on her. So when that time kind of gets up and she's kind of off on her own, then we'll probably circle back around and do it
Yeah.
as a partnership. I think right now my time and dedication is again utilizing platforms like this to share the story, inspire other people. I mean, that's Charlie Lillard say, I'm here to inspire other young women and dads and entrepreneurs to build their business and do things. And that's the platform we're in right now. Right now, we want to build an awesome coffee farm. We want to continue doing coffee farms. We want to get our product out there. We want to build our business. And I want to focus this time on her right now. I feel like if I did that, though it is a much needed thing, unfortunately, I wouldn't be focused on her. I'd be focused on all the other people. And
Right.
I think right now I want to dedicate my time fully to helping her get her business acumen up.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, man, it's incredible. It's incredible. It's inspiring. I think you're absolutely right. I think if you put too many pokers in the fire, you're going to run out of bandwidth to handle all those pokers. I think you're doing the exact right thing. And if that other stuff comes, then it comes. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And, I mean, people like us are always here. If you ever want to come and talk and chop up shop, or bring your daughter with you and sit and chat with her as well. I'd love to have you and her both on the show as well anytime in the
Yeah,
future if you're
absolutely.
interested.
Yeah,
Yeah, man. We definitely want to respect your time. I think we're at about the 90-minute mark almost. And just want to give you back your time so you can go back and spend that time with your daughter for sure. Anything that we haven't covered, anything we missed, any kind of topics or key things that we might not have covered that you want to touch on before we kind of wrap it up?
I think if I had to just kind of in closing, this stuff is great, and the coffee's great, and the farm's great, and all of the things that we want to do. I think that the lesson I learned through all of my hikes across America and being homeless and being in the homeless community is realizing that 90% of the homeless people I had conversations with or youth shelters, didn't have fathers. And I think that the system of war, every time we're going to war, takes the father out of, the household. And I do understand that's a little more traditional. I know nowadays things have kind of transitioned a little bit more to parties in the household. And I think it's a divide. It's a rig in the system to break the American family up. And I think we have to kind of, as a sense of revolution, pull that back together and lay that infrastructure. I do understand decisions happen, divorces, marriages don't always work out, things don't always work out the way we want to. That is part of life. But that doesn't mean that we have to avoid our leadership responsibilities as fathers. And I think, again, I don't have a son, and thank God, probably it'd be probably a lot worse. But I think as having a daughter, realizing that I am the key component to who she becomes when she gets older. And there is no system, there is no government, there is no person in this world that is going to break me from that. And once I show her that I've got her back, a lot like what we had when we were looking for something when we joined the military that we did not have when we were teenagers, and we had the opportunity to be part of this amazing group that supported us. I'm really just copying that and putting that infrastructure in with my daughter. And I want all of the parents out there to realize that when your child has a dream and your son wants to build a business and he wants to do something, take the time to listen, understand that not every idea is always a great idea just because they have it, right? Put it in place and allow them to do the work and then support them, just like your young Marines. And I think if we do that together collectively as a military unit and we go on to that kind of initiative, we will create a paradigm shift in our country that is much needed. We won't need politics or policy to do all of that. We'll have it right there at the dinner table. And we'll inspire so many people on platforms like you guys and internally and externally. And we will start to create a future that will hopefully bring back the family unity. And I think if we can do that, which is really what this is all about, right? We can sleep at night knowing we left a decent legacy and that the future of our children are safe. Because as much as my daughter is going to find somebody one day, I can only hope that that father is playing the same role that I am in his son's life, right? Because I've got plenty of backyard, so hopefully, I hope that people are starting to kind of get that mindset and just think about our children that way. I think again, once we do that, all the other stuff is just noise, But that's probably what I would leave.
That's awesome, man. And the last thing I would ask from you is Kansas City or Philadelphia. What do you think?
I don't care about any of that stuff.
All right. We'll go with that one.
Honest. Yeah. Taylor Swift for the win. Right?
We're all pretty much in consensus for that one.
Good. Hey, well, T-Shay, man, it was awesome and an honor having you on the podcast. You have given me, I wrote down an entire page of life lessons that you have just taught me on raising my own kids and potentially, breaking some world records, or at least trying for some. I don't know if I'm going to break them, but and business stuff too. So I really appreciate your time and your discussion with us, man. It was truly awesome to have you on the show.
Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to share our story, and thank you so much for continuing to support our veteran community.
Absolutely. And we shared your, it was biggunscoffee.com.
Yes, sir.
And you're in Sprouts as well, right? So we can get that out there to the veteran community.
Yeah, we'll actually be launching May through July in Sprouts. So across every store across the United States, May through July will be part of their innovation program. You'll be able to walk in at the new for you section, and you'll be able to grab the motivator and Charlie, our two plants.
Awesome. And you know what? We drink coffee every Sunday on the show, so I'm gonna have to get me some of your big guns coffee here.
Yeah, just shoot me your address information. We'll get you some out.
Oh, right on. Awesome. That's
Gotcha.
awesome. Hey, we appreciate you, T-Sean. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you.
Take it easy. Have a good son.
Yes, sir. Bye.
Hey, that was good, man. That was a good combo. A lot of stuff learned, man. It was, yeah, just great, man. Just the way he's raising his daughter, just the way he's, teaching her about business. A lot of folks don't do that. And I take that back to that recruiter video that I saw. The dude mentioned that he went to the community college and he talked to a few college folks about the Marine Corps, right? And a lot of them, they either didn't shake his hand or, gave him the limp fish handshake, could not look him in the eye to talk to him effectively. And, I've experienced that myself, with folks, with young folks, especially in today's society. They just, everybody's so hooked on one thing, on video games, on TV. Nobody's really picking up. No, there's lack of interpersonal skills or communication skills is what I'm seeing. I've got 3 kids myself, and I try to teach them, get up, stand up straight, stand up when somebody's talking to you, give a firm handshake, look them in the eye, things that we're taught from an early age, from back in the day, to make yourself as confident as possible. And these things are lacking, I think, in today's society. And I can go on and on with this, man. Trust me. I can write a book about this stuff, but maybe I will. I don't know. I'm talking myself into it. But man, it's let me see. We got some comments here. We got Karma is Queen. Real quick. Thank you. Happy Sunday. Church was good. Here to learn something. We recently paid for my husband's resume to be done, and it's on the 2nd revision. So fingers crossed it's the last one. Hey, yeah, fingers crossed. It's those things are not cheap from what I've experienced, but a lot can be had. I don't know if it's a federal job. I have some good insight on federal job resumes and how to work that system. It took me about 85 resumes submitted to actually learn this stuff. But if you ever need some insight, please hit me up. And we got Navy Cop MA1. Kids are grown and out of the house. Now we hope we did all we could to help them move forward and be there if needed. That is the dream, right? You hope that you raise them as well as possible, so that way they can be, effective, constructive, and smart adults, because that's what you're doing. You're raising adults. You're not raising really kids. You're raising future adults at that point.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Awesome stuff, man. I wanted to share really quick, and I'll be at this, at least the intent is to be here on the 19th, is it? Yeah, the 19th. So let me share the screen here. At the stage. Okay, so I'm a big fan of Gunnery Sergeant John Basilone. Okay, we both hail from New Jersey. He was a Marine. He's a Medal of Honor recipient, right? Big fan of his. So they're doing a Veterans Honor Ceremony and plaque dedication at Mount Soledad. That's in La Jolla, Mount Soledad National Veterans Memorial. In La Jolla, it's right on the coast over by San Diego. I plan to be there and watch the plaque dedication and just be around fellow veterans as well. So again, a big fan of Gunnery Sergeant John Basilone. He wrote a book called "I'm Staying with My Boys," and I was just actually talking to my son about this yesterday. We went on a hike, and it was normally we kind of get into discussions about the military stuff. He was just randomly asking. He's my 14-year-old son, randomly asking me about stuff. How was this, Dad? How was that, Dad? And I got to talking to him about John Basilone, and then I started looking it up, and lo and behold, this thing is happening like next week. But yeah, talking to him about the book, I'm Staying with My Boys, how he manned the machine guns, how he saved some lives. talking to him about Jason Dunham, Medal of Honor recipient and all that, who, took a grenade. So to save the lives of his friends, of his platoon buddies. So yeah, big stuff. And I love talking about that. And, I always get a little bit emotional when I start talking about it, because it is selfless service for their fellow service members. So yeah, if you're ever in the area, San Diego, maybe next week, February 19th, happening from 11 to 12 here in La Jolla at the Mount Soledad National Veterans Memorial. So they also have a bust of him, a bronze bust over in Little Italy here in San Diego, which is a little random because I was just randomly going there for my Portraits to Patriots headshot. Right. Yeah, it's a free headshot. If you haven't heard about that program that does like free headshots for transitioning military service members, and they had a bust of Gunnery Sergeant John Basilone right down the street as you're entering Little Italy, and I was like, what the? I just went to go take a seat, and I'm like, is that John Basilone? And he's not from San Diego at all. He's from New Jersey, but I know they have a big parade for him in New Jersey and all that stuff. So very cool to actually see that and sit there and just be around folks who are like reading the plaque and all that stuff.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, man. Let me see if I can find a photo of it. It's yeah, here it is. Better photo of that. There you go. Share this screen. I mean, there's a ton of them, right? But it's called Piazza Basilone, and it's right downtown. And I don't know if it's sharing or not. No, maybe not.
Yeah, I can see the.
Okay, you can see that. Okay, yeah, that's what it is. I mean, it's Piazza Basilone. Very cool spot if you ever get a chance to go out there, and very nice area too. So it's you can go out there, get something to eat, and then check out. I spend a lot of time right behind here. Let me share that. Yeah, there you go. Right behind here, there's an art store. So I happen to be at the art store all the time downtown San Diego. So and I happen to just hang out at Piazza Basilone any chance I get. It's right across the street. So very cool spot. Very cool spot.
Awesome.
Yeah, there you go. It doesn't look too much like them, but whatever. It's all good.
It's big and it's bronze.
Yeah, that's it. Let me see here. We got a couple other things. We got from Karma is Queen. Husband feels the writer doesn't adequately convey his contributions to the Navy during his career. Yeah, well, I mean, Karma is Queen. If you have any questions about that, if you want somebody to review the resume, I'd be happy to put eyes on it and just kind of give you some feedback as well. I've reviewed several resumes for friends and other veterans, so happy to do that. Just reach out to me, either on Military Retirement Podcast at gmail.com or the green logbook at gmail.com. And I can put eyes on that and just kind of give you some pointers and things like that. All dependent on the career path you're looking to go into, right? I've learned that a lot of them are different. Federal resumes are a lot different from civilian resumes. But again, just good to get a second set of eyes on that stuff. Let's see, Navy Cop MA1. Many years ago, my reserve CB debt cleaned up a small cemetery in Washington State that holds 3 Medal of Honor recipients. One was related to one of our chiefs and met several living Medal of Honor recipients. Very surreal. Yeah, it is. It really is. I was at it was the Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego. The Marine Corps Museum Association was holding a gala event. I was invited there by a retired colonel that lived down the street from me. And I had no idea that there's just 3 miles down the road, there's a Medal of Honor recipient that lives there. I had no idea. I met him at this event, and a Navy Cross recipient as well. Got a few photos with those folks. Very surreal experience. I had to go back and read about their citations and all that stuff. And just cool to meet folks like that have, made these sacrifices and then just, are here to tell the story about it.
Yeah, it's seen a few over here in Europe,
Mhm.
just being over here for so many years and visiting some of these places. The one place I haven't get to visit yet, Normandy, but I've visited some other places throughout
Yeah.
Europe, and it's interesting to see not only the fact that they're Medal of Honor recipients, and if they're Army or Marines or
Mhm.
whatever branch they happen to serve, but just reading some of the stories about like where they were, what happened, what transpired,
Yes.
what
Yeah,
they did.
that's
Like,
huge. That's huge.
uh, just for example, like Sergeant Gregory, from the U.S. Army. I went to a place in France called Verdun, and they have a few different things there. Really interesting battles that went on in that area. And you look at it today, and you're like, wow, it's really quiet, and it's kind of like farmlandy, kind of
Right.
suburban, very clean area. But if you think back to like World War I days, where they were doing trench warfare, and some of that stuff was going on, and just the amount of stuff that went on, and that wasn't even World War II, that was World War I. Like that was on the ground fighting and a lot of stuff like that. Um, it's incredible, some of these stories, and they well deserved to be honored for not only protecting their country, but protecting the men and women around them during these skirmishes and these battles and these confrontations. So
Oh, 100%. 100%.
it should
Here,
be a
let me
really
go ahead.
that should be a really cool thing on the 19th.
No, it definitely will be. So the Colonel Bob Madrzewski is the one I met. Here you go. That's here you go. And very, very like just quiet dude. Just you would never think that he was, a Medal of Honor recipient. That
Yep.
he made these sacrifices and all that. But yeah, very, very good guy. Got a chance to sit there and talk to him for a little bit. Found out he lived like 3 miles down from me. I was like, hey, we got to get some coffee sometime. I have so many questions for you. Not trying to, you know, have him relive these crazy moments, but I just wanted to let him know, like, hey, people of my generation care about what you have to say, and I don't want those stories to go untold, right?
Yep.
So very cool to see. Yeah, I got to see a few folks out there. No, that's me. That's me at the Navy recruiter's office. I was looking to, after I retired, ask him, how can I re-enlist in the Navy or something?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, just a couple things out there, just really involved with the veteran community and stuff. So very cool, very cool.
Awesome,
But
man.
yeah, John, I'm not going to take more of your time, man. It has been an excellent show. A lot of good information, a lot of great lessons passed. If anybody out there wants to get a hold of us, military retirement podcast at gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, the Military Retirement Group. Where else are we? I'm on LinkedIn. You're on LinkedIn. Military Retirement Podcast is on LinkedIn as well. So easiest way to get a hold of us, just look up Military Retirement Podcast. We both get pinged on it. And if you're in the San Diego area, February 19th, 11 to 12 for the Gunnery Sergeant Basilone Memorial and Dedication, I'm looking to be there myself. So if you see me, feel free to reach out and say what's up.
Get one of those.
That's it.
And if you like what we're doing, you enjoy what we're doing, feel free to share it out to the communities, people who may not know about us, who may be trying to get over that hump or get ready to go over that hump or that hurdle to civilian life, coming from military life, whether they've served 5 or 10 years or if they've served 20 or 25 years, doesn't matter. Even if they're coming off the first term and they need some guidance, I think we offer a cornucopia of information for anybody to just dive into. It's choose your own adventure, right? You can pick and choose and find what's relevant to you. Today might not be relevant to you if we're speaking about father-daughter relationships and about raising kids, but it all kind of wraps up and ravels up into the same topic. So
Mhm.
I feel it's all helpful, and that's why we put this stuff together. So yeah, if you like what we're doing, give us a like, smash the subscribe button. If you're listening to us on podcast platforms, you can do the same out there. You can subscribe to the podcast. If it's in audio form, if you're watching us on TV, hi from the big screen. We'd love to be on your TV. and happy to be in your home and bring you some hopefully good quality information for you, your families, your loved ones who are making that transition to civilian life. And yeah, other than that, that's all I got, man.
Awesome. Yeah. Got to get prepped for the game now.
That's right. Get prepped for dinner.
All right. Yeah. All right. Thanks everybody for watching, and please stay tuned and feel free to connect with us. Thanks again. Out here.
Out here, man.